us started then. Welcome back to Strong Opinion Hibs. This is episode number 18. I'm Charlie, and as always, I'm joined by Calvin. How you doing, Calvin?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, mate. How are you?
I'm good, and we're delighted to be joined for his hat-trick appearance by Jack Gillies. Jack, welcome back, mate. It's been a long time. How are you?
It's brilliant. It's good. I think your listeners will be getting fed up hearing me now.
Not at all, mate.
Not at all. Anyway, the sad news broke that David Gray is retiring and is joining the first team coaching staff. How did you feel about that?
You go first, Jack.
Aye, I was sort of expecting it, to be honest. You know, he didn't get much game time last season, and you knew that it was coming, but you don't want it to come. You know, it's the moment I've been dreading for a long, long time. Sir David hanging up his boots, but great that he's staying on the coaching staff. I think it would have been even worse if like that had been it. He was moving on, but to know that he's staying on is absolutely amazing. He deserves it. He's going to be a real inspiration to all the young lads that are coming through the team and the players that have played with him that are still at the club. You know, he's going to be a huge inspiration. I think he'll bring something new to the backroom team and certainly help Jack and John out, and he'll have a lot of, you know, on the field experience to bring into that. So I'm really, really happy staying on. But I woke up and turned on my phone, and the first thing I got an email from Hibs saying David Gray retiring, full statement here, and I was like, wow. It came as a bit of a shock, but it feels like a real end of an era. You know, a lot of these players we had when we won the cup have moved on or retired, and you know, Marv at Livingston, he's hanging up his boots soon as well. So it really does feel like a real end of an era sort of thing in regards to the cup winning team. But he's a legend, he's an inspiration, and I think, you know, it's 3 pints for Leith down in Leith for David Gray. So yeah, but like I said, it's sad that he's hanging his boots, but I'm really glad he's staying on as a coach because he's got so much to bring into the backroom setup as a coach. I think, and certainly, like I was saying, Jack and John will learn lessons off of him. He'll learn lessons off of them, and it's going to be a good step in his career, and especially since a club he's given so much to, and we've given so much to him. So aye,
totally, mate. Calvin,
just some really excellent points made by Jack. Like the end of the era thing, like that's really hit home with me. I never thought about that until Jack had said it, but he's right. It is the end of an era. You know, there's a time where our back four was looking like immensely strong. You had Gray, Stevenson, McGregor, and Hanlon. Like it was good. Like it was a really good back four. And it's sad to see it sort of dispersing. Like, you know, Louis kicking on. Yeah, Gray's obviously retired. McGregor's obviously still playing, but he's took more of a back step. Like it is sad because those guys are like. They've been really reliable for Hibs and they've been really solid. And they've always been like, you know, sort of like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. They've been very like consistent, I've felt. I think for me, as you have said, guys, it's no surprise that he's hanging up his boots, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt any less. Still stings a bit. But for me, he's kind of one of those ones where it's like he's a legend and rightfully so, and he always will be. And as you said, like 3 pints for life, and like, you know, that story will live for, you know, 100 years from now. You know, they'll be talking about David Gray scoring that header at Hampden. Like that's something that'll never ever go away, and rightfully so. Like he'll be remembered for that, and it's a beautiful thing, really, to being a Hibs fan thinking about that. But I think the last couple of seasons was kind of known he was probably on his way out, but I don't know. It's like you never truly miss someone until you actually realise they are gone, and it's like he is gone from playing, but the blow, it doesn't hurt as much because he's still going to be there in the coaching staff and that. So I'm still glad that he's around the club, and I think it's good that we keep characters like that around. And I think, you know, it's something that having these older guys backstage like McGregor as well. I'm pretty sure McGregor's doing a bit of his coaching badges and things like that. Or I do know Hibs brought out a statement a couple of years ago saying that they were going to be keeping players like that on. So him and McGregor. So obviously upset, but a lot of good memories to look back on, which we're going to do.
Aye, totally. You know, I echo both statements there. I think, you know, it wasn't a shock at all. It's probably the best move for both. You know, he's getting on a bit. His knees are giving him bother. You know, the past couple of seasons he's been out with a few injuries with them. So I think it's a good idea for him to you know, take that step back. But obviously we'll miss him playing. But 7 good years at Hibs. It's crazy to think that he was one of the, you know, we had about 6 registered first team players when he joined, and you know, he captained us to the cup final, which I'm sure will be probably the a memory that we speak about in due course. So let's just jump right into it. So, Calvin, what's moment number 5 for you?
Moment number 5 is probably, it's not a goal scoring moment, but it's his tackle he made in the cup final on the halfway line. And I think that was what, if you watch that, the Hibs DVD that they brought out about the cup final, Time for Heroes, it's spoken about in that. And I think that really just gave a lot of belief in the squad that day. Can't remember if it's McGinn that's talking about it, but someone says they just see Davy Gray making a tackle on the halfway line, winning the ball back like late on in the match, and that just really spurred the team on. So for me, that's probably one of my top 5 moments for him. Definitely is having that sort of influence in the team for folk to look over and say, Christ, there's Gray still try to win the ball back and that. And like, I guess doing that late on as well, you can just see like how much they wanted that. And if you've heard him speak about it before as well, in that same DVD, an interview he'd done, he was talking about, I think he was rooming with Fontaine, but I'm not sure, the cup final. They do talk about it, but then he starts to go on to talk about like, oh, imagine we won it in the morning, scored the winning goal and things like that. Like, it's quite surreal. I'll see if I can try and look at that out, and I'll post it on the Twitter later. But aye, definitely that tackling within the halfway line's up there for me. What about you?
Jack, what's number 5 on your list?
Now, number 5 for me is the goal against NSI Runavik in Runavik, up in the Faroe Islands, because I don't think people really realise what that meant to the tie. They were 3-2 up at that point.
Oh,
I think,
that's right,
when he scored. And yeah, we had won, obviously, because we'd beaten them like 6-0 at Easter Road, but they were getting dangerously close to, getting back into it. And David Gray, it was a tap in, but it was an important goal in that tie. And, there was the mist coming in and everything like that. And I really don't think the tie should have been allowed to continue with that mist coming in. But David Gray, with like the poor visibility, maybe he didn't mean it, I don't know, but he just tapped it in, and that really helped us in that tie. I think it was an important goal. It's one that goes sort of forgotten because, the game was sort of meaningless, but they were coming back into it, and it was up in the Faroe Islands, and it wasn't on TV, and no many of us made the trip up because obviously it's not the easiest place to get to. Still a good amount of fans there, so I think it's one that goes forgotten, but it was just one, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, of a few of his European goals that he scored, but it was quite an important goal when it comes to tie, and I think, you've got to be in the position to score them. It was just made all the better by the fact that mist coming onto the pitch, how anybody could have scored in that, I don't know, never mind your aging right back. So aye, definitely for me, that's number 5.
Aye, for me, number 5, it was his first goal he scored for Hibs, and actually it was his first career goal. Ibrox, when we beat them 3-1 in the Championship, Cummins got the double that night, and I think, when we signed him, we're like, does he score goals? Ken right back, you sort of assume that they'll maybe pop up with 1 goal in a season, but fantastic goal, took it really well. He scored a few that season, actually, come to think of it. He scored a couple against Rangers and what have you, but aye, that's number 5 for me, is his first goal for Hibs. We'll move on to number 4 then. Jack, what's number 4 on your list?
Number 4 for me is the goal against Asteras Tripolis at Easter Road, another one of his European goals. And now that one was really important. Asteras were obviously 2-1 up at that point. It was getting quite scary. I thought, is our European tour going to end this early? It was a team that was sort of expected to beat, and I don't think we really set ourselves up right that night. And Asteras had sort of, really given us a good seeing to in the first half. And we came up, obviously Effie scored to make it 2-1. And then Sir David, it was an amazing goal. It was great. Stevenson's ball across to him. And then sort of quite far out, he puts the laces through it. There you go, 2-2. And then obviously that Swiss player, whose name we will not mention, scored the winning goal. And then we went on to win the tie in Greece and get through. Obviously, we didn't get past Molde, but that goal was one of the famous recent European goals at Easter Road. And like I said, the ball for Stevenson made it. I think that made it for him. But you don't expect a right back to just put the laces through it like that and score. And we saw it. McGinn's goal against was it St Johnstone was very similar to that. The position he got in the box and everything. So yeah, it was good to see Sir David scoring another European goal. But aye, that one was so important to that tie. It got us back into it. It sort of spurred us on to get the win. And I think going even further, it inspired us to, you know, get what we needed in Greece as well. But it was an amazing goal. It was an amazing finish, and it wasn't an easy ball to get on at the end of it. It was a good ball for Stevenson, but I thought it was going to miss everybody. And you just see David running into the box. He gets it, chests it down, takes a wee touch, bang. There you go, 2-2, game's back on. So absolutely amazing. And obviously, that's number 2 of his European goals. He made a habit of it, scoring in Europe, as Sir David did. But definitely. And again, I think it's one of his underrated goals, because we didn't really talk about that Ty much now. But it was an excellent. And like I said, it could have been in any game. It was the finish. But what it meant to that game as well, and the fact that it's in Europe at Easter Road, was just absolutely amazing.
Aye, totally. That's actually number 4 on my list as well. So I think I agree with everyone, Jack, and just the celebration as well. You know, when he just runs over to the east.
What it meant.
It's just memorable. So Calvin,
I'm the same as you.
Number 4 for you as well.
Just chucking out a question here. Where does David Gray rank on our all-time European scorers? He must be up there.
He must be.
European goal scorers list.
I think it's got to be Jimmy O'Rourke. I think it's either Jimmy O'Rourke or Pat Stanton that's at the top. Or it might be one of the famous. It's one of them. David, I think, would maybe be about 3rd. I think it's one of the famous 5.
Maybe.
Jimmy O'Rourke or Pat Stanton, and then you've got some other older players. But he's got to be our best goal scorer recently in Europe.
I can't think. I don't know how you even got to be researching that.
Hibernian Retro, the historical trust of Ken.
I'll fire them a message actually now, and I'll see if they can get back to us by the time the episode has finished. But yeah, just something to think about.
I've just thought about that. But got to be in the last sort of 20 years our top European goal scorer.
Well, it must be.
Maybe in the 90s, but no.
I'll let you know what they say.
Well, if we've all got the same one for number 4, we'll move on to number 3. Calvin, what's number 3 for you on the list?
I'm going to put the Bromby goal in now, just because I think that was after the cup final.
Yeah,
it was
after the cup final, and I think it was just like when you need a goal. Who steps up? The man himself. Yeah, it was beautiful. And the celebration and that was good as well. And I loved watching back the videos on the, seeing the fans. Actually, I think one of the fans had recorded it, because you can see videos on Twitter that go about every now and then, and it's that goal, and it's a beautiful goal. And I was glad Sir David Gray scored it. And it was just a proper captain. He's been really, really good. Like, I've really thoroughly enjoyed him. Being at Hibs, and I think that goal, although we went out on that tie, I still think that's underrated, beating them 1-0 away over there. Like, that was a big result. That was a very big result, and it was a good result at the time as well. We were seriously unlucky to go out. But I think that night was excellent, especially beating Bromby 1-0 away. Like, that's understated, or,
I think it would be really, because they're such a good team. Obviously, they'd won the Danish league, because that was back before Copenhagen were really getting their dominance in. And they'd won the Danish league, and I think they'd won the Danish Cup as well. They'd either done a league and cup double, or they'd won one of them. I can't mind, but they've been really good. So to go out there, and bearing in mind the Danish league's, one of the sort of middling ones in Europe as well. It's not a bad league at all, the Danish league. It was really good to get the result against Brøndby. And
they're no mugs.
No. Especially when he scored, I think the technical term was he was blowing out his arse at that point, And to see him scoring was and I don't think anybody really, the belief was gone in that tie. We thought that's another year, but to score, and as a champion, as a second division side, to get a result like that against a team for a decent league like the Danish league, a team like Brøndby, as a second division club, was absolutely amazing. Especially, we had the buzz off the cup and that, but they had a much better squad than us, at the time, and deserved to be, they deserved to beat us like 3 or 4-0, like 5 times over. And I'm saying that as like a diehard Hibby. Brøndby probably deserved to beat us by a lot more than they did. Not in terms of like on the day, but before coming into it.
Yeah.
On paper, they should have beaten us by a lot more than they did, but we showed a lot of character. And again, like we're talking about, after the cup final, when you need them again, he steps up, and that's what he's all about. He's the workhorse right back that when you needed him, he was there.
Aye. Jack, is the Brøndby goal number 3 on your list? Because it's number 3 on mine. I feel like this list. I feel like this list is everyone can just guess, really. So number two. We'll move on to number 2, and I'll start this one. So number 2 for me is an obscure one because it's nothing to do with David Gray on the pitch or off the pitch. It's more to do with how Twitter reacted when we signed them, and it's more from our ugly sisters from the other half of the city. So I remember when we signed them, and they slated us because they were like, "Why are Hibs signing somebody with Burton Albion?" And like, "Oh, he's got knees like paper. He'll never do anything for Hibs." And just like it's just how they react when we sign anyone. So, and I just love that he captained us to win the cup. So to the Hearts fans that slated us, get it right up, ye. And that's number 2 on my list because it was just funny watching it. And then 2 years later, look what he goes and does. So it's number 2 on mine. Calvin, for yourself.
Number 2 on my list is his goal against Rangers at Easter Road when we pumped them 4-0. For me, that I've talked about it a few times on the podcast, but that game, I was working a night shift the night before, and I finished at 5 in the morning. I think it was a 12 o'clock kickoff or 12:30 kickoff, and I got home time. I got about 4 hours sleep or something like that. 5 hours sleep for I was up, so I was shattered, and I thought, Chris, we're playing Rangers, like, Ken, I'm getting up for nothing. We're going to get beat. And we were about 2-0 up in about 10 minutes. I couldn't believe it. It was brilliant. And that goal was an absolute rocket that he scored as well. I just had a full head of hair at the time as well, which was amazing.
Right,
it's strange looking back and seeing that, David Gray with hair, but that was a beautiful goal. And I think the reason it's high up on my list is just because of the sort of the whole sort of day for me, working the night shift, being shattered, showing up, expecting to get pumped, and then, Gray fires a rocket into the net and you're singing "You're Not Rangers Anymore," which was beautiful. And David Gray helped that, so
brilliant.
Really that moment,
Totally. Jack, over to you. Number 2 on your list, mate.
Well, I was going to say that one, but to be a bit different, obviously that one is, but I've got a joint number 2. I'll say that goal, and I'll sort of say my views on it in a minute, but I've got to say the sort of that moment with Scott Brown when he handed over the plaque. I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was brilliant because it's, from one bald legend to another. 2 bald men that cause Rangers a lot of problems. But
that's good,
but I think, it was just because both of them have left their mark on Scottish football, and, Scott Brown's done so much historical stuff at Celtic, the treble and everything like that, and obviously he's a product of our youth academy, and grew up a Hibby, and did a lot for us when he was younger. And David Gray obviously broke the oldest curse, not just in Scottish football, but probably one of the oldest curses in world football as well, when he headed that goal. And so I think it was seeing 2 captains and 2 legends that are at the end of their careers having that moment together. And apparently, for what I've heard, David he was bang up for it. He wanted to do it because he looked up to Scott in a lot of ways as well. And him and Scott Brown are quite good friends off the pitch. So to have that moment and to see the 2 of them having that moment together, 2 guys that have left their mark on the Scottish game and are such big legends to us as Hibs fans. And obviously, I think David Gray will get 3 pints down the East End of Glasgow as well, probably, for that goal against Rangers. I think Celtic fans love him nearly as much as we do. I think it was just seeing that moment. And normally I don't say anything good about Celtic. I don't like what they're about as a club or anything like that. But I think that moment was great because it was putting the 2 clubs aside and just appreciating 2 players that have, like I was saying, left that really big mark on the Scottish game. And regardless of their colours, appreciating them as players and seeing them share that moment.
Aye, that is one I'd never even thought of for my list. But now you mention it, that's a good one. Well, I guess we all really know what number 1 on our list is, But
yeah, we may as well. It's just a formality, this one, isn't it?
Aye, I mean, I've got his all-round performance that day. He was just fantastic. Did he not go off like injured at one point?
Yeah, he came back on. He
came back on, and I think it was round about then he done that tackle at the halfway line as well, and just that's when
Gammy shins. The physio was looking at him, and he's a bit like was a bit like Kimpemba last night, except the outcome was very different. Sorry, France, but the point was that he came off and he was like knackered. You know, he was having his old problems with his shins again, and you know, he'd had a lot of bad cramp and everything, and he just came back on, and what a warrior, puts in that tackle, and you know, sitting there for me, there was only two players that were ever going to win it. It was going to either be Stokesy or Gray. It was only ever going to be two players who were going to win it for me, and you know, it was sort of as a result of Stokesy that Gray got that winner. So I think it was quite, it was written in the stars. You know, he'd come off, he'd been so immense, he'd come off injured, but came back on, put in that tackle, and then up you go, score. And that is the most historic goal in the history of our club. You know, nothing even comes close to it. You've got Derby winners, you've got, I think the only goal that ever comes close to that goal was Hanlon's equaliser at Tynecastle. That is the only thing that even comes close. You know, probably there's ones that Laurie Riley probably scored to win us the league that aren't even as important as that. You know, it was the big one, it was the big occasion, it was a big day, 114 years. You know, in the time that we'd won the cup, there'd been 2 world wars, a wall in Berlin, everything like that. And he came up, stepped up, and on that day, he provided the goods, and he deserved it. It couldn't have been a better man. It's like the commentary, you know, Ian Crocker was saying, you know, if the one man was to step up and win it, it'd be David Gray. And it was, you know, it could have only been him or Stokes, and he really deserved it. And you could tell what meant to him, because so many folk, like we were talking about with the Hearts tweets and that, were writing him off. When he came up to Hibs, oh, he'll struggle, he's no good enough, whatever. And then look at him, he has done something that some of the biggest players in our history couldn't, which is score a winning goal in a Scottish Cup final. It's just absolutely amazing. And to lift the Scottish Cup as a captain, the first one to do it since Bobby Atherton in 1902. It was absolutely amazing. I think, you know, that moment just encapsulates what David Gray means to us. That whole moment is what he means to us. You know, he's the most unlikely of heroes, I think. You know, like we're talking about, he came in, folk like, who the hell is he? Is he going to do anything? And then he came up, true underdog story, and look at what he did. He did something, like I was saying, that players like Pat Stanton, Laurie Riley, Jimmy O'Rourke, John Collins, players like that, he did something he didn't. And it's just so amazing. So it encapsulates everything that David Gray did for us, and it encapsulates his Hibs career, basically. That one moment encapsulates his whole Hibs career for me. Absolutely.
Oh, totally, mate. Calvin, I mean, it's a formality to talk about it, mate, because I'm sure folk will be sick of hearing about it, but like what? No, I'm not.
If you say losing his hair, is his number one moment, I'm going to scream.
No, it's one of these ones, mate. Like, you know, you'll never see anything like it ever again. You know, the next time we win the cup, it's not going to be as special. Next time, you know, even if it's like the League Cup, you know, if we beat Hearts in the League Cup final or the Scottish Cup final, it doesn't come close. And
it's not complete. Exactly. You know, it's the biggest moment. I think like I was saying, it's the biggest moment in our club's history by far. You know, I think we could win the league again, and that wouldn't matter as much. You know, because we won the league in 1953. That's not 114 years, is it? You know? And so there's still people alive that can remember us winning the league. There wasn't with the cup.
Aye, so Calvin, what's your highlight, David Gray's career at Hibs?
Aye, definitely the cup final goal. Like, I mean, that's one that I'll tell my grandkids about. I mean, David Gray's a Hibs player that, you know, I'll tell my kids about, my grandkids about. Like, you know, when I'm 90 years old, Ken, it's like one of those things when it's like, not to be a bit morbid, but Ken, when you're lying on your deathbed, it's like, it's definitely one of the things I'll be thinking about, and I'll be thinking, thank God I've seen that. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's my life complete. Like, I'm so happy that I was one of the ones that was lucky enough to be able to see that. And it's all thanks to David Gray. So,
definitely,
absolute hero. And so you can get really emotional when you think about that goal, because it's not just the fact they won the match. It's what it means to everybody. It's what it means to, you know, Hibs that have came and gone, passed away, that didn't get to see it. You know, being there with your loved ones, watching it together, taking that moment in, like something that you love, as in Hibs in general. You know, being able to watch that special moment and share it with, you know, your dad or your brother or
exactly,
you know, your granddad and that, if I was there with, like, that's a memory and a bond that, you know, we'll always have together as a family. And like that's thanks to David Gray scoring that goal. Do you know what I mean? Like having the guts and the determination to step up and tuck that away was something I'll always remember. And I swear to God, I think about it at least once a day since it's happened.
Easy.
Well, I've watched it once.
Definitely once a week. I think about that.
With the Titanic music. I've watched it with Titanic music a few times.
Nah, because it gets you.
I'd like to say. I know Ron Gordon listens to the podcast all the time.
He's our number one listener.
If Ron Gordon is listening, East Stand, it's the Sir David Gray stand now. Make it happen.
Aye.
Should happen. Get my statue.
I'll pay. I'll put money in. 100%.
Aye, they should actually sell. Ken, how you get these figures in that, like the football players now? You can actually get like toy figures. They can, if you remember it back in the day, like I had a Terry Henry one, like him. They should make that, like Ken the him doing the header. It would sell.
Oh yeah, that would
store, man. That would sell in the club store, like.
Totally.
Else, but I
heard what I said about I think I froze, but I didn't care what you had about the stand. But if Ron Gordon's listening, I want the East Stand to be the Sir David Gray stand next season. No, even statue. No, maybe even the West Stand. Statue outside the West Stand, Sir David Gray stand. When it says Birmingham Football Club, take all that down, put Sir David Gray stand. I'll be happy. There we go. Totally. I'll buy an extra season ticket. I've already got one. I'll just buy a joke of it. But Ron Gordon can take all my life savings if he does that.
Aye, totally. Well, before we move on to the next wee bit, the Strong Opinion House podcast, happy retirement, Dave, and thank you so much for that goal.
Best of luck, pal.
Thank you.
So we've got two wee segments that will be quick because there's a Matteray and England Germany game coming on very soon. So we'll move on. We'll move on to the shirt numbers. Number 18. It's a number that we've had a couple of players. So I'll read them and we can pick our favourite. So starting from Michael Rennick, Gary Smith, Scott Brown, Jamie McCluskey, John Rankin, Anthony Stokes, Junior Agogo, Roy Donovan, Alan Maybury, John McGinn, and Michael Nellam. So, Calvin, we'll start with you. Who's your favourite number 18?
That's hard. Stokes. Say Anthony Stokes. I think Anthony Stokes was a good first time he came. He was superb. Scored a lot of really important goals now. It was obviously upsetting seeing him move to Celtic. But I think Stokes was good at that time. I think the likes of Scott Brown were really good as well, breaking through. But I feel like Scott Brown was a better number 7 than he was, number 18.
Mm-hmm.
And did you see John McGinn as well? But I think McGinn was a better 7 as well. Personally.
Totally.
Jack?
Aye. I came up been saying about Scott Brown and John McGinn being better number 7s, but I'm going to go for Scott Brown because a young Scott Brown for us in that midfield, like back then, was just immense. You saw what Scott Brown was going to become. Then you knew he was going to be a special player, and obviously, record fee we've ever received to the player as well. But especially in the CIS Cup winning season, he was amazing, like as part of that team. He was absolutely brilliant, and played a huge role in the final. And obviously, the 3-0 at Ibrox, obviously that's all about Sproul's hat trick. But Scott Brown, the runs he made were, they were crucial. The runs he made, the balls he was putting through to Sproul, that's what made that game. That's what got Sproul up and running. So I'm going to say a young Scott Brown just because of how much of a big part of the team he was back then, and you were seeing what sort of player he was going to become. And obviously he doesn't have those sorts of legs on him anymore, but he's become arguably one of the best midfielders that the Scottish game's ever seen. And recently, last 20 years, he's arguably become one of the best midfielders. Look at what he's done. He's starting off in our academy and winning the CIS Cup with us to winning everything you can in Scottish football and playing against Barcelona and everything like that. And like I said, I don't like Celtic at all. I'm not one of these folk that goes, I see Celtic as our brothers or whatever. Or, I'm not like that. I'm firmly of the opinion that Scott Brown, regardless of what colours he wears, is an inspirational player. Any young lad coming up through the system, and he's an excellent midfielder. And for us, he was just absolutely immense. And he was a bit of a hothead at times, but it's good to have that quality. Like Scott Brown for me. I know we're talking about him being a better number 7, but for me, has to be a young Scott Brown because of how crucial he was back then.
Aye. For me, it's there's only one man really, John McGinn, favourite Hibs player ever. So number 7 and number 18 on my list. He was just class. He was class, didn't he? So we'll move on to the listener questions. Jack, you asked us one favourite David Gray moment that is in the cup goal, but we've already discussed that. So we'll move on to the last question that we got from Paul Mackay. And he says, should we have a number 2 this season or not, or should we retire the kit number? I think we should retire the number.
Yeah, definitely.
If Jude Bellingham can get number 17 retired after 6 months playing for Birmingham, I think after 7 years we can retire the number.
Well, aye, definitely. It's not even a question for me to hook the number 2, because it's not just because of that cup goal. It's how much David Gray's given to us as a club. Football, it's a short career, and 7 years in football is a long time to be at one club. You look at the right backs that have came and went ever since David Gray's arrived, and I think he's sort of passed the baton on to Paul McGinn now. But I think you've got to retire the number 2. There's no two ways about it. You've got to. It's such an immense kit number. It's such an immense player. There's a lot of teams where you say the man makes a number. Well, that's not a cliche here. That really was. The man did make the number 2. David Gray is the number 2. He was our number 2. Nobody even comes close to him in this current squad. So I retire it, definitely. And I think Paul McGinn, he's got obviously his own number, and he'll step up and he'll make his own memories in that shirt. So I definitely retire the number 2 because that's Sir David's number and nobody's ever going to come close to him.
Nah, totally. Calvin, do you think we should retire it?
I would say no. Nah, I didn't think they should. I think you make really good points, Jack, and I could see why some people maybe would want that. But for me, I just think that it's not really something we do or we ever have done. And I can understand why David Gray would be the first. But I just feel that there's better ways to remember David Gray. And I would like to have, but build the man a statue, eh? But build him a statue. He deserves a statue. I think that would be a beautiful way to remember him. I can already see all the Instagram posts of people getting their picture taken in that way. Would be brilliant. I think that would be a really good way. And I think for a player in the coming up to have the privilege to wear the number 2 shirt, the one that David Gray wore, I think they'd say, Christ, Ken, this is, think of the great number 2s that played for Hibs, David Gray. I think that would be a real incentive to do well for Hibs. And I think that would be an honour to wear the same shirt as David Gray, or stood where he stood in that way, in that manner.
I see your point there.
I think both are valid. I think both are good ideas, but I think I'd rather see us do something actually for David, like physically. Like I'd rather see us build the man give him, name a stand after him, or name
or training centre, like give one of the pitches at the training centre his name or something like that.
Just make his heat the new badge. Something for him, I don't know.
I agree.
They're giving him a testimonial, I saw, so that's a good start.
That's good. Because you got the Lisbon Lions statue going up to Parkhead.
You should have a Sir Dave one. Definitely.
I'd love that outside the West Stand, Ken. When you come into the car park at the West Stand, you got the ticket office and everything. Having it there, or even like in the middle of the road going up Albion Place, would be brilliant. Something like that, I think it would be. I don't care how many cars crash into it or how many buses miss it going round the corner or just missing it. I don't care. I don't care about the health and safety. It's Sir David.
It would be the damage to the bus with that heater. Put
the heat in a loathing double. To be fair, it's not the first time we would have put the heat in something maroon, so it's all right.
Aye. I think I would have it next to the club shop, as you come.
Aye, that's a good
corner there. Aye.
Yeah, that's a good. But anywhere basically, just how Tottenham have the cockerel on the. Just put one on the roof. Like
just give him a statue in every possible location. I think he's one of the best players to ever play for Hibs.
You should make him Aye, sorry, Charlie.
No, I was just saying he's one of the best players to ever play for Hibs. Our best ever captain, in my opinion. And there we are.
They should build him a statue, but have you ever seen the one James Corden does with Beckham? Have you seen that, no?
Have you seen it, Jack?
I think he's frozen.
Sorry. I've no style, no bottle, Wi-Fi out. We're bringing that back. It's my
Put that on a t-shirt.
Robbie Nielsen's gone and Craig Levine's in now.
Aye.
Aye, there we go.
Does that mean the Wi-Fi will need to fire itself?
Oh, no.
Oh, aye, you'll have to
Wi-Fi.
Is the Wi-Fi also the provider?
The Wi-Fi will interview itself for the new one. But
Aye.
well, that brings us to. Oh,
aye, sorry, I was just saying, Jack. Have you seen the one that James Corden does when Beckham gets the statue?
Aye, I have. That's
You need to do that to Stevie Gray. That'd be class.
that would be brilliant if we did. That's prime content. I think that would pull the Twitter admin out the quagmire he's in. Right?
Aye, it would indeed. Well, I think that brings us to a nice wee finish. It's a positive episode, Calvin. You know, the past couple, the cup final, then the worst ever Hibs 11, they've both been negative. So this is nice to have a positive one for a change. But
exactly.
We'll be back in a few weeks. I don't know what we'll be chatting about because there's not really much happening with Hibs. Hopefully a new signing or something, but we'll be back soon. No, I wouldn't either, but we'll be back soon.
Right, we need to chat about the kits, the new kits, man.
And they do, good. Aye, there we are. Anyway.
Oh, that's like that bloody dress all over again with that training top.
Is it blue or is it purple? And that's really all we want to say on the matter.
Yeah, that's for next. That's a wee teaser. There. We'll play a game. How many people can strong ops upset? Or how many more people?
Aye, how many more is a good question. Right, we'll speak to the listeners soon.
Right.
And he told me when he watched the Hibs, he never felt the cold.